Hi, my name is Beth Gibson, and I'm from Ypsilanti, Michigan. And my question is about euchre. It is so quintessentially Michigan, and it seems like everybody in Michigan plays euchre, and people from other parts of the country do not know about euchre. I'm wondering if euchre was invented in Michigan, and what do we know about the history of the game euchre?
Maybe you learned at the kitchen table with your family or picked it up from friends in college. Either way, you know the game. It's a fast-paced trick-taking game. A little confusing at first. Beloved around our state. Played with a stripped-down deck, it lives somewhere between luck and strategy. And because it's so popular here, Beth raises a really good question. And answering your questions, well, that's kind of our thing. This is On Hand, a podcast exploring all the things that make Michigan unique. I'm April Baer. Today, we're going to go it alone and tackle this question two-suited. First, what draws Michiganders to euchre? And then we'll look at how and where the game started. Get some 4s and 6s ready to keep score. On Hand is here to play. Our bower for this particular episode is On Hand producer Michelle Jokish Polo. She's been looking into Beth's questions. Hey, Michelle.
Hi, Bear.
So, Michelle, like Beth said, euchre is just a game that everybody seems to know around here. It's like something that we take for granted.
For sure. I mean, even the rules are a little hard to explain.
How do you even start to answer the question?
Well, I figured the best place to start my research was somewhere people really know the game. A euchre tournament at a local brewery.
Beer and euchre. This story is so Michigan.
Right?
She's going to pick it up regardless.
She may have. I made her do laundry.
I know for a fact
I went to
she's gonna
Oakston
pick it up.
Brewery in Granville in West Michigan to check out their monthly euchre tournament. The brewery space is in a strip mall located in downtown, and it was just after 6 when I got there, and the room was buzzing with people.
We're playing euchre. We're doing a round-robin, basically, euchre tournament. So each person that comes plays with a different partner each and every game. And the tournament's set up to just play as many rounds as you can in a couple hours.
That's one of the tournament organizers, Jamie DeVries. He and his wife, Becky, started hosting these tournaments 2 years ago, and I came to the tournament hoping to figure out why this game is so beloved among so many Michiganders.
Seems like you found the right people then.
Definitely.
Why did you guys start this?
Euchre is a popular thing in West Michigan, and it's a really good way to put some butts in the seats in a nice brewery on a Tuesday night when it would otherwise be really slow. And so we're friends with the owners of this particular brewery, and we decided we can help them out by getting some people to come in and drink some beer and play some cards.
How long have you guys played euchre? Do you guys remember the first time you played together?
We've more than 30 years we've been playing euchre. Yeah.
Yeah.
We started playing euchre in high school, and then through college it got really popular for us. And then after that, it was a family game, and our boys play, our 2 old adult boys play, and so we just play with our family. We've been playing forever.
Where's that ace?
And the queen was there out there too. But we
So
got
by us getting one of those, they only get 1 point. If they got all of them, they got 2 points. So we got what's called the stopper. We stopped them from getting it.
There are 2 types of euchre partners, the risk takers and the ones that maybe you could call the rule followers, like Lori Horn. She's been playing euchre with her husband, Greg, for decades.
We are a good balance. We're not both risk takers at the same time. I think we balance each other out. My father-in-law is a Hoyle rule follower. And so he will always, when I started learning how to play euchre, he would say, well, according to Hoyle, you should call next for your partner.
Wait a second. Who is Hoyle?
So, according to Hoyle, is like an old-fashioned phrase that just means according to the highest authority or the rules. And it's allegedly based on Edmund Hoyle, a man from the 1700s who is believed to be the first one to write out the rules for card games. And there are Hoyle books based on those rules, like rules for gin rummy,
In your hand, create sets of cards consisting of 3 or more of the same rank.
Or cribbage.
Be the first player to move your cribbage pegs from the beginning to the end hole on the cribbage board. Each player chooses...
Or euchre.
Aces down to 9s are utilized. 5 cards are dealt to each player. 1 suit is declared to be trump, and its jack becomes the right bower, or the highest card of the suit.
But none of these rule books are written by one person named Hoyle. According to Hoyle, it's just the understood standard for play.
Got it. So, Michelle, how did the game actually go?
Okay, so this was my first time watching euchre be played in this way. And let me tell you, these players are so fast. There were these 6 big tables set up at the start with 4 people at each one. And then at the end of each round, everyone got up and switched tables to play with a new partner.
This is just about the game and meeting people.
We have a lot of repeat players, so we know they're enjoying it. But we also get a lot of new players each week as well.
Every time we do it, we get new players, which is
so
great.
I think they're telling their friends, and then their friends are coming and joining. So
That's Jamie DeVries again. And for him and his wife, meeting people and building community is really what euchre is all about.
I think you could pick any game and do it for 30 or 35 years and then sit back and reflect on it and think about all the times you've played with the different people you've played with and the memories that go around that, and then it would apply. For us, euchre is that thing. We can remember the couples that we've played it at our house when our kids were itty-bitty little kids. We can remember the times where we've had tournaments or we've hosted large groups. There's been 50 or 60 people here before playing on a Tuesday night, right? Those memories get stuck to the game because that's what we were doing.
I love that. I'm wondering, though, did it seem like this game is getting passed down to younger generations still? Are there younger people who are building those same memories that Jamie and the other players there did?
You know, I didn't meet a lot of young people at the tournament. There were only a few folks in their 20s, but what a lot of the players did tell me is that their kids know how to play euchre, and they still do it. Maybe not as much as they did, but it's a game that's still going on strong. Here's Becky and Melanie, 2 of the players I met that night.
I don't think it's going away. Our son was in college in 2018, and they played, but they also played other things. I don't think it was the only thing they did. You know, where when we were that age, it was kind of the game. Now there's more.
No, I've been encouraging my kids to play euchre because it's a great way to meet friends, especially in college. And so when I was a freshman in college, my parents dropped me off for orientation just before Labor Day, and then I didn't have a car, so I had to stay on campus for Labor Day weekend, and there wasn't a lot to do. And so I took a deck of cards, and I went around to the people in my dorm room and asked if anybody knew how to play cards. It wasn't just euchre. I could play euchre, but euchre, spades, rummy, whatever it was, but a lot of people could play euchre, and that's how I started meeting friends in college, was like playing euchre.
Okay, so Michelle, what do you think? Is there another euchre tournament in your future?
Oh, definitely. But I gotta sit down and practice my euchre first. You know, I don't want to embarrass myself in front of the experts.
Michelle Jokish Polo, on-hand producer. Thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome, Bear.
When we return, where did euchre come from? And why do we play it in Michigan?
I have actually a different theory because nothing in history is that straightforward. I think there are several possibilities. They may have all come in at various times. There was a significant German, which included Alsatians, that came through New Orleans.
We are going to meet this IT academic turned euchre historian in just a bit. What's one of the most Michigan things you can think of? Maybe it's the lakes, the hand map, saying ope without even realizing it. But for a lot of people, it's euchre.
It's such a family game in my family. I mean, from grandmas down to kids, everybody plays, you know, you'd see it everywhere. But then when I moved to California for 20 years and nobody has even ever heard of euchre. It's so Midwest and really kind of Michigan.
But here's the question. Did euchre actually start in Michigan? And if it didn't, how did it become such a Michigan thing? To get at that, We're turning to someone who spent time digging into the history of the game itself. Stephen Zink is originally from Ohio and grew up watching and playing euchre his whole life. Today, he's a retired faculty member at the University of Nevada, Reno, where he dedicated his career to researching and teaching information systems management and digital governance. In retirement, he's turned his scholarly curiosity toward a new subject, and that is exploring and documenting the history of our beloved game of euchre. Stephen Zink, welcome to On Hand.
Thank you very much. I feel like I'm at the buckle of the euchre belt.
How long you been playing?
Oh, I don't even remember. I grew up watching adults play euchre, so much so that I don't remember the original time, and so much so that my father's best friend, I thought his name was Euchre because every time they came over, they were playing euchre, and he always was talking about euchre, and so I thought for a long time his name was Euchre.
What have you learned about the origins of euchre, where it came from?
Well, this has been pretty well established only in the past 20 years. Euchre is really not a true German game. It's what you would call an Alsatian game. It is that from that area along the Rhine River where France and Germany meet, and has been, they're German by descent, but French by I think by choice now, and they have been overrun over history, I don't know how many times, going back and forth between German and French control. It's a absolutely beautiful vineyard area in France along the river, and probably began in the 1700s. Now it has antecedents that go back much further, pieces of it that you can find in card games back much further, and it was called Euchrespiel, which essentially means euchre game.
What do you know about who played euchre in its early days?
Euchre was the most malleable game that one could possibly imagine. Early on, I have little doubt, and most historians agree, that euchre was a game that had built-in protest. You make the jack higher. A jack is really a low card in some senses, and it also refers to peasants or farmers. If you make the jack higher than the king, it's hard to impress upon people today after our country's 250-year history of free speech and criticism and everything. But that is not a good omen for a healthy life, to be playing a card game where the king is subordinate and the ace is subordinate, and the queen, to a farmer.
So I think I'm hearing you say this is the people's game.
It absolutely was. It's very malleable in the sense that it was played in homes, but then it moved to taverns, and then when it moved to the U.S., and it was started out as a gambling game, because in the 19th century, early 19th century, Americans bet on everything. Actually, the world bet on everything. In any game, it had to. But it eventually, over time, after it was time on a riverboat and during the Civil War and afterwards, became a very gentle game where it was played at home, where women started to have parties at home in the late 19th century. And then it was played with thousands of people in a version called progressive euchre that would play for mostly jewelry or something like that in large New York facilities, or for charities, which is still true today. All this time, you have to keep in mind the progressive movement that was anti-drinking or everything else, anti-gambling, they were battling that all the way. Now, they weren't alone. Fortunately, poker came along and looked much more devious than euchre. So euchre sort of became a social game.
If we do know that Alsatians turned Germans were the ones who introduced the game here in this country, do those origins begin to sprout in Michigan, or do we know first states in the U.S. where euchre might have been played?
Oh, this is a very difficult thing to talk to people in Michigan about.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm afraid that the ports of entry did not include Michigan when it first was developed. I know. They didn't hop over the eastern corridor. In reality, It's often said that the Germans in Pennsylvania probably brought it over since they were the early ones. I have actually a different theory because nothing in history is that straightforward. I think there are several possibilities. They may have all come in at various times. There was a significant German, which included Alsatians, that came through New Orleans.
Oh.
And and that was the largest port of entry in the early 19th century after Philadelphia.
And a city that loves its card games.
Oh, they love their card games. And the Midwestern farmers, after it became control of the U.S., shipped their products down the Mississippi, spent a lot of time in New Orleans before they headed back by foot or horse to the Midwest. So it's not likely. And Michigan probably didn't even come up the Mississippi. It probably came from the East Coast. But there's also a possibility that the Hessian mercenaries in the Revolutionary War may have brought some aspects of the game. The one misconception that is incredibly invalid is that euchre was always a Midwestern game. That is not true. It was just as prevalent throughout the South, in fact, more so in many respects. And that's why I also think that the Southern entrance through New Orleans was so critical. But you can find and I have been through any digitized newspaper that I can scan and index throughout, thousands and thousands of references to euchre spelled 13 different ways throughout the South. And you can see it incredibly prevalent all the way through the Civil War. And in fact, the Civil War probably helped spread it even more.
You're blowing my Michigan mind.
Well, Michigan, it was not mentioned as a big deal in Michigan initially, but Michigan is sort of the center today.
How has the game changed over time?
Oh, remarkably and constantly. And almost certainly they played with the 7s and 8s when they arrived in the U.S.
Stop. Really?
Yes.
I just don't see what that could possibly add.
More chance, I guess. Yeah, and the other thing that is very strange, and this is without a doubt, is sometime just prior to the Civil War, or likely during the early part of the Civil War, someone got the idea that it needed to be shaken up a little. The game did, and so they moved to what they call a super jack. Oh, that's what I called it. Or a highest bower. And that is the origin of the Joker. Oh. But they didn't use the Joker card because there was no Joker card. They used a plain card that actually came with the pack. And so the plain card was the most powerful card in the game. And this didn't last long in the U.S., maybe 10 years, was not uniformly adopted.
Now, why do you suppose that it never really caught on in the States?
I can't honestly say, other than it probably did prolong the game a little with extra cards. And there was tradition, and it was popular. I have a feeling that probably the troops, particularly in the southwestern part during the Civil War, there was not nearly as much action as in the East. And maybe they had more time on their hands. In fact, in the western part of the nation during the Civil War, they even called truces and played cards across lines, mainly because the Southern troops had no cards anymore, but they knew how to play euchre, and that was not an uncommon thing. Also, euchre was changed, and it was always considered to be a very fast game, so you could play quickly, and there were even euchre cars, like smoking cars on trains, but the trains stopped frequently, so they had the games limited to 5 points, and all sorts of things to speed up the game.
Stephen Zink, retired professor of the University of Nevada, Reno, coming to us from Nevada itself. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Sure.
And to our listener, Beth, thank you for asking this very important question. What's your question about Michigan? This podcast is here solely to get answers to the things you want to know about our state. Any person, place, or thing that makes us quirky and different. Send us your question, and we might just investigate it in a future episode of On Hand. You can send questions in an email or voice memo to onhand@michiganpublic.org. That's onhand@michiganpublic.org. Today's episode was produced by Michelle Jokish-Polo. Other producers are Mike Blank, Ronia Kabansag, and April Van Buren. Our senior producer is Mercedes Mejia, and our executive producer is Laura Weber-Davis. Digital services by Jody Westrick. Music for this pod came from Blue Dot Sessions and from Audio Network. Thanks for listening. Coming at you from the land of hope and dreams. I'm April Baer. Bye-bye.